Hello and welcome to a new video about the Roman Empire. And today I will answer questions that I have been asked. Well, the first question I have been asked is what is actually Saturnalia? Well, Saturnalia is kind of the most important Roman celebration day, and it was originally held on the 17th of December. It changed later though, between different days, but all in December. And it was actually a celebration day for Saturn, so a Roman god. It was basically a day of feasting, etc., and gambling and everything, so a real happy day for the Romans. Interestingly, it was also the day where the masters had to table serve their slaves. So they had to bring them wine, they had to bring them bread, etc. So kind of the role changed on Saturnalia, which is really lovely, even though it was odd for some slaves always to do that, and for this one day not to. It was really loved by everyone because it was kind of a real happy day for the Romans. You could almost say that Saturnalia was the Roman Christmas. It was kind of the most important feast, even though for Christians, obviously, Easter is more important than Christmas, but still. The second question I want to answer today is the question, who was the best Roman emperor? And that's a really hard and still interesting question, because no one can really say who the best Roman emperor was. Surely everyone ruled at different time. They ruled also in different years, so they had to face different challenges. Many would actually say, if they were asked the question, that Augustus was the best Roman emperor. This kind of the universal question for what was the best of Rome, Augustus. Octavianus, obviously. It's fair enough to say that, really, but I think you can't really say who was the best. They all really lived in different times. Some had harder challenges, some had pretty easy ones, and some ruled only for a couple of weeks, while others ruled for 20 years, for example. So they had way more time to actually do more stuff. So I think you can't really say who the best was. But if people say Augustus, it's fair enough. He did some really good things. He's basically the founder of the Roman Empire. And Romans really saw him as the emperor. Later also they saw him as basically the best emperor that was there. So if you would say Augustus was the best emperor, a Roman would agree, and I would probably say yes, that's a good answer. As long as you don't say Nero was the best emperor, I'm fine with that. But there were actually many Roman emperors who weren't so nice. Tiberius, Nero, Caligula, they all did quite some weird things and also horrible things. But there were also many Roman emperors that were actually quite nice. Obviously, you could, for example, create a list of 5 Roman emperors who you could argue about that they are the best, because I think you can really create a list of top 5 and worst 5. That's really possible, but I think it's very hard to decide for one is the best. But if you want an answer definitely which one is the best, I would also say Augustus was the best Roman emperor. Obviously that's a huge topic, and I could dive into that way deeper for an analysis of every good Roman emperor, what they all did, and compare that to each other and all the bad Roman emperors. It's the same with the worst. You can't really say it. even though if you say Nero, Caligula, or Commodus, people would say, all right, you can say that. So it is really a hard question though. And I'm like a friend of saying like making a top 5 and worst 5 list. Because if you asked me personally which my favorite emperor was, then I would say Vespasian. He was a great emperor. And even though he got emperor in his later years, he was never really meant to be emperor. He fought himself to the throne actually, because he was actually born on the countryside in Sardinia, in a Roman province, which is not so far from Rome, but it is more a hilly province, and people looked down on him because of his accents that he had from there. So, especially in his young years, he was not meant to be emperor, but he got lucky, and also kind of his skills and his politics, etc., made him really a way to get emperor in the end, which was really unlikely. So I quite would say he's my favorite emperor. I would not exactly say he's the best, but definitely my favorite one, because he implemented some really interesting taxes. For example, the urine tax, which is quite the famous Roman tax, really, because it's so what, So it's quite famous, and it is quite a good tax, I think. I mean, some people say, like, why would you do that tax? But the Roman treasury was empty. So he basically had to find ways to get money in, because basically Nero quite spent a lot of money. So yeah, and there were civil wars, and basically he won the throne through a civil war. So the Roman Empire was really weak and didn't have that much money at that time, so he had to get money in to basically stabilize the whole empire. So he was also the founder basically of a dynasty, because it was not that common like the son of an emperor got the next emperor, but his son actually got emperor, and then the brother of his son, so his other son basically, got emperor, but then his dynasty was finished. So it was not a long one, but it was still quite uncommon actually. And the last question I want to answer today is the question, did Romans take poison to get immune? That's a good question, because I can say to 100%, I don't know. I can say though that it was quite common in ancient times to take small portions of poison daily to actually get immune against certain other poisons that could kill you. And let's say, for example, the job as a king or emperor at that time was not the safest job, because poison was a common way to get rid of a king, for example. So really famous there's Mithridates, who actually was the master of making himself immune, that he supposedly survived many assassination attempts through poison, because he made himself immune towards many poisons, which is actually quite incredible. So I would say yes, Romans did it actually, but how many did it? I can't say. It's at least as far as I know, impossible to say how many it actually did. But I would say like the most important people tend to do it because they knew about the danger of poison. So to answer your question, I don't know fully, but some surely did that. So yeah, these were just 3 quick questions I answered today. I hope you are happy with my answers, and yeah, wish you a great day. Hope you could learn something, and bye for now.